Death was just a footstep away, and I was about to be crushed beneath it. The shadow of a giant sneaker blocked out my entire world as it descended toward me at impossible speed. In that split second, with my heart hammering against my tiny ribcage, I realized that being born as a mouse meant living every moment on the edge of extinction. But let me tell you how I got here, trapped in the middle of a kitchen floor with nowhere to run. My name doesn't matter, mice don't have names, only territories and survival instincts. What matters is that I was born 3 weeks ago in the dark warmth behind your refrigerator, squeezed between my 4 siblings in a nest my mother built from stolen tissues and carpet threads. The first thing I learned wasn't how to see or walk, it was how to be silent. Because in my world, noise equals death. I was the smallest of my litter, which meant I got the least milk and the most pushes from my brothers and sisters. But being small had advantages I didn't understand yet. While my siblings fought over the best spots near mother's belly, I learned to find comfort in the tiniest spaces, to navigate cracks they couldn't fit through, to become invisible when the world above us rumbled with footsteps. My eyes opened on day 12, and the first thing I saw was fear in my mother's face. She was staring upward at the ceiling, her whiskers twitching rapidly, a sign I would soon learn meant immediate danger. Above us, I could hear the deep vibrations of human voices, the thud of furniture being moved. My mother gathered us quickly, carrying each of us by the scruff to a new hiding place deeper in the wall cavity. "The humans are hunting again," she whispered as she set me down in our new temporary home. "Remember this feeling in your stomach, it's the feeling that keeps us alive." But nothing could have prepared me for what happened next, the night everything changed forever. Day 18 brought my first real hunt for food. My mother had stopped producing enough milk, and it was time for us to learn the most dangerous skill of all, foraging in human territory. She led us through a maze of pathways I never knew existed, tiny tunnels behind baseboards, gaps under cabinets, spaces so narrow that even my small body had to squeeze through. "Follow my exact steps," she warned. "Memorize every route, every hiding spot, every escape path. Your life depends on perfect navigation." The kitchen at night was a different universe. What seemed like an endless desert of white tile stretched before us, punctuated by massive structures that rose like mountains, the refrigerator, the stove, the island counter. But my mother moved through this landscape with the confidence of a seasoned explorer, her nose constantly twitching as she read scents I couldn't even detect yet. Under the stove, she found our treasure. A single breadcrumb the size of my head that had fallen from the counter above. My siblings rushed forward, but my mother blocked them with her body. "Wait," she said firmly. "Always check for traps first. Humans are clever, they leave food to catch us." She circled the crumb 3 times, sniffing every inch around it. Only when she was satisfied did she allow us to feed. The taste was incredible, sweet and salty and unlike anything from my mother's milk. But even as I ate, my mother kept watch, her head constantly turning, listening for the slightest sound from above. That's when I heard it for the first time, the soft padding of human feet on the floor above us. My mother's body tensed immediately. "Freeze," she whispered. "Don't even breathe loudly." We all stopped moving, the breadcrumb forgotten. The footsteps passed overhead and faded into another room. My mother waited a full minute before allowing us to continue eating, but the lesson was clear. Humans could appear at any moment, turning safety into mortal danger in an instant. Subscribe and comment, the most shocking part of this story is about to come. Week 3 changed everything. My mother decided it was time for us to hunt alone. "I won't always be here to protect you," she said, though I didn't understand what she meant. "Each of you must learn to survive on your own." My first solo mission was supposed to be simple, retrieve a piece of dog food that had rolled under the dining room table. The route was straightforward, through the gap under the kitchen door, along the wall to the dining room, grab the food, and return. What could go wrong? Everything. I had just reached the dog food when I heard something that made my blood freeze, the soft jingle of a collar. My mother had told us about the house cat, but I had never seen it. Now, crouched under the dining room table with a piece of kibble in my mouth, I caught my first whiff of that predator scent. Musky, sharp, and absolutely terrifying. Yellow eyes appeared in the darkness, followed by a sleek black form that seemed to flow like liquid shadow. The cat had found me. Time slowed to a crawl. The cat's pupils dilated as it focused on me, its body dropping into a hunting crouch. I could see every detail with crystalline clarity, the slight twitch of its tail tip, the way its ears rotated forward, the pink tongue that briefly licked its lips in anticipation. I dropped the kibble and ran. But cats are designed to catch creatures like me. Every stride of my tiny legs was matched by 3 of its massive paws. I could hear its claws clicking against the hardwood floor behind me, getting closer with each second. The gap under the kitchen door seemed impossibly far away. That's when I made the decision that saved my life. Instead of running straight for the kitchen, I veered toward the couch and squeezed into the narrow space between it and the wall. A gap too small for the cat to follow. I pressed myself against the cold wall, my whole body shaking, listening to the frustrated yowls and scratching sounds as the cat tried to reach me. I stayed there for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Finally, the sounds stopped, and I smelled the cat's scent fading as it moved to another part of the house. But I waited even longer before attempting the journey back to my family. And here's the part no one would ever expect, this was just the beginning of my education in terror. The next morning brought new dangers I never could have imagined. I was foraging near the trash can when I heard the most terrifying sound in my world, the snap of a mousetrap. Somewhere in the house, one of my siblings had made a fatal mistake. My mother found me later, her eyes red with grief. "It was your brother," she said simply. "He went for the peanut butter trap under the sink. I told you all to stay away from there." That night, as we huddled together in our nest, my mother taught us the most important lesson of our lives. Humans set traps because they know what we want, she explained. They use our own hunger against us. The sweeter the smell, the more dangerous it probably is. But hunger makes you take risks you know are stupid. 3 days later, I found myself staring at another trap, this one baited with chocolate. My stomach was cramping from emptiness, we hadn't found food in 2 days. The chocolate was right there, just sitting on a small metal platform. All I had to do was grab it and run. I approached slowly, remembering my mother's warnings but desperate enough to consider ignoring them. That's when I noticed something odd about the shadows around the trap. There was a thin line across the metal platform, almost invisible unless you looked at just the right angle. I backed away slowly, my heart pounding. The trap was more sophisticated than I had realized. One wrong step and that metal bar would snap down with enough force to break my spine. Instead, I spent the next hour studying the trap from every angle, learning how it worked, understanding the mechanism that turned food into death. This knowledge would save my life many times over the coming weeks. The shadow returned that day, but this time I was ready for it. By week 4, I had become an expert at reading the rhythms of the house. I knew that the humans woke up at 6:30 a.m., that they left for work at 8:15, that they returned at 6 p.m. I knew which floorboards creaked, which doors squeaked, and exactly how long it took for footsteps to travel from one room to another. But knowledge didn't make me invulnerable, as I learned during what I now call the Great Kitchen Disaster. I was hunting for crumbs under the kitchen island when the impossible happened. The humans came home 3 hours early. I heard the key in the front door and knew I had exactly 30 seconds to reach safety before the kitchen lights came on. I ran for the gap under the refrigerator, but in my panic, I knocked over a small piece of cereal that skittered across the tile floor. The sound seemed deafeningly loud in the quiet house. The kitchen light blazed on just as I dove under the refrigerator. From my hiding spot, I could see massive human feet entering the kitchen, moving slowly and deliberately. One of the humans had heard the noise and was investigating. "Did you hear that?" a voice rumbled from above, so deep and loud that it seemed to shake the entire house. "Probably just the cat," another voice replied, but the feet didn't move away. Instead, they came closer to my hiding spot. That's when I realized my mistake. In my panic to hide, I had chosen a spot with only one exit. If the human found me here, I would be trapped with nowhere to run. The feet stopped directly in front of the refrigerator. I could see a hand reaching down, fingers spreading as it prepared to lift the appliance and expose my hiding place. This was it. After weeks of survival, my luck had finally run out. But then something beautiful happened. From somewhere across the kitchen came the sound of the cat knocking something off the counter. The human's attention immediately shifted to this new disturbance, and the feet moved away from my hiding spot. I waited 20 full minutes before emerging, my whole body trembling from the close call. But I had learned something crucial. Sometimes survival depends on factors completely beyond your control. Sometimes you just get lucky. That was the moment everything changed. When I realized I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was learning to live. The turning point came during week 5, when I discovered something that would transform my understanding of what it meant to be a mouse. I was exploring when I found a hole that led to the space between floors. Following this passage, I emerged into what I can only describe as a mouse metropolis. There were dozens of mice here, maybe hundreds. Families I had never seen, with tunnels connecting their territories like an underground city. At the center was the oldest mouse I had ever encountered, a grizzled female with gray whiskers and scars. "You're the new one," she said, studying me. "The one who survived the cat and the early humans and the chocolate trap." Word of my adventures had spread through the mouse community. I was becoming something of a legend, though I didn't feel legendary, just tired and constantly afraid. "Fear is good," the old mouse continued. "Fear keeps you sharp. But fear without wisdom gets you killed. Let me show you something." She led me to an observation post where we could see into the kitchen through a crack in the wall. For the next hour, she taught me to read the house like a book. How to tell the difference between normal human activity and hunting behavior. How to identify the safest times for foraging. "Your mother taught you to survive," she said finally. "I'm going to teach you to thrive." Over the following days, this wise old mouse became my mentor. She showed me food sources I never knew existed, water sources that never dried up, hiding spots that no human or cat had discovered in decades. But more importantly, she taught me that being a mouse wasn't just about avoiding death, it was about building a life worth living, even in a world designed to kill you. Share and subscribe to keep this journey alive. 3 months after my birth, I faced my final test. The house was being renovated, which meant chaos for the mouse community. Our pathways were being torn apart, our food sources disrupted, our hiding places exposed. I was attempting to relocate a food stash when construction workers arrived unexpectedly. There was no time to return to safety, no nearby hiding spots, just me and an expanse of open floor with a work boot coming down fast enough to end my story permanently. But those months of training had prepared me for this moment. Instead of freezing in panic, I used the one advantage I had always possessed, my size. As the boot descended, I didn't run away from it, I ran toward it, diving into the tiny space created by the boot's tread pattern. The foot hit the ground with tremendous force, but I was pressed safely into one of the grooves, riding out the impact in a pocket of space no human could have imagined. When the foot lifted, I dropped to the floor and scurried to safety, my heart hammering but my spirit soaring. I had turned my greatest weakness into my ultimate strength. That night, as I settled into my nest with enough food to last through the renovation chaos, I reflected on the strange journey that had brought me here. 3 months ago, I was a helpless newborn who couldn't even open his eyes. Now I was a master of survival, a navigator of impossible spaces, a creature who had learned to find opportunity in every threat. The old mouse was right, I hadn't just survived, I had thrived. And in thriving, I had discovered something profound about what it means to be small in a big world. Size doesn't determine strength, fear doesn't define you, and sometimes the greatest victories come from learning to work with what you have instead of mourning what you lack. My legacy isn't the food I've gathered or the territories I've claimed. It's the knowledge I've gained and can pass on to the next generation. That every creature, no matter how small, has the potential to write their own story of survival and triumph. And if you've made it this far in my story, maybe you've learned something too, that perspective changes everything, that what seems like a disadvantage can become a strength, and that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward despite the terror. Because in my world, every single day is a reminder that life is precious, moments are fleeting, and the greatest victory of all is simply making it to tomorrow.